Most nights on the road are uneventful. You drive, you fuel up, you sleep, and then you do it all over again the next day. It's a routine, a rhythm, and you get used to the loneliness of it. But every now and then, something happens, something that reminds you just how vulnerable you really are out here. This happened last summer, somewhere in Tennessee. I'd been running hard all day, trying to stay ahead of a bad storm that was rolling in. I was making good time, but I was dead tired. Around midnight, I spotted one of those smaller truck stops. You know the kind, just a handful of parking spots, a single row of fuel pumps. The big-name stops were still a couple of hours away, and I knew I wasn't going to make it that far without some rest. So I pulled in, fueled up, found a spot toward the back of the lot, away from the pumps, but not too close to the tree line. I don't like parking near the edges. Too many stories about cargo theft. Or worse. There were only 2 other trucks parked there, both with their curtains drawn. Drivers already asleep. After locking up, I climbed into the sleeper, set my phone alarm for 4 hours, and stretched out. The storm hadn't caught up yet, but the air was thick, the kind of thick that makes it hard to breathe. I cracked a window, just enough for ventilation, then shut my eyes. I woke up to a sound. Wasn't sure what it was at first. Maybe just my half-asleep brain playing tricks on me. But then I heard it again. A faint tap on the door. Not a knock, just a light, deliberate tap. I rolled onto my side, trying to shake off the grogginess. My phone said it was just past 3 Hazur a.m. The truck stop was quiet. No sign of movement outside. I figured maybe it was some drifter looking for a handout. So I stayed still, hoping they'd move on. Then the handle jiggled. Instantly, I was wide awake. My heart started pounding. Someone was trying the door, testing it. I grabbed the knife I keep in the side pocket, moved as quietly as I could, and sat up just enough to peek through the curtain. From the angle I had, I could only see part of the lot. Nothing. But my gut told me they were still there. I reached for the keys, thinking I'd start the engine, spook them off. But then I noticed movement in the mirror. A shadow, shifting, near the back of the trailer. Whoever it was, they weren't alone. I kept still, barely breathing. After a few seconds, the shadow disappeared, moved out of view. I swallowed hard, trying to decide what to do. If I got out, I'd be exposed. If I stayed put, I was a sitting duck. Then I heard a click, not from my truck, from one of the others. I peeked out again and saw a dark figure crouched near the truck 2 spaces down. He had just popped the latch on the trailer doors and was slowly pulling them open. Cargo theft. That's what I told myself. Just some guys looking to steal whatever they could. But if that was the case, why had they tried my cab first? I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, keeping my voice low as I explained what was happening. The dispatcher said they'd send someone, but in a town this small, I knew it wouldn't be quick. Then my stomach dropped. The shadow near the other truck wasn't alone anymore. Another figure stepped into view, this one standing closer to my rig. They weren't looking at the trailer. They were looking at me. I don't know how they knew I was awake. Maybe they saw the curtain shift. Maybe they'd been watching me the whole time, waiting for me to react. Then they took a step toward my cab. I didn't think. I slammed my hand on the horn, holding it down, as I flipped on every light I had. The air horn shattered the silence echoing through the lot. The two figures bolted. One ran toward the trees, the other toward a rusted-out pickup parked near the entrance. A few seconds later, that same truck peeled out onto the road, taillights disappearing into the night. The guy whose trailer they had popped open. He never even woke up. The cop showed up about 10 minutes later, took my statement, checked the security cameras. Turns out the truck stop didn't even have working ones, just old shells mounted on poles to look like cameras. They found some footprints near my cab and the other truck, but nothing else. No fingerprints, no plates on the getaway vehicle. The officer asked if I wanted to stay and rest a bit longer. But there was no way in hell I was sleeping after that. I got back on the road, drove until the sun came up, pulled into a bigger truck stop, one with plenty of people around, before I even thought about shutting my eyes again. I still think about that night, about the way they moved, how they didn't seem rushed or desperate, just patient, like they'd done this before, like they'd do it again. And the part that really gets me, I don't think they were after cargo. I think they were after a driver. I've been driving long haul for about 15 years now. I've seen my fair share of strange things on the road, some funny, some just plain weird, but only one ever really shook me up. I don't talk about it much, but I still think about it every time I pass through northern Arizona. It was late, probably around 2 a.m., and I was running I-40 westbound, somewhere between Holbrook and Winslow. That stretch of highway is quiet at night. Just long, dark miles of desert, with nothing but the occasional gas station flickering in the distance. I had a full tank and a tight schedule, so I planned to push straight through to California without stopping. My CB radio had been mostly quiet for the last couple of hours. just the occasional trucker chatter about road conditions or police activity. Then, around mile marker 270, a woman's voice crackled through the speakers. "Anybody out there?" She sounded young, maybe mid-20s, and there was something off about her tone, not scared exactly, more uncertain. I picked up the mic and answered, "Yeah, driver, I hear you. What's going on?" There was a pause, just long enough to make me think she'd clicked off. Then she came back. I don't know where I am. Can you help me?" That got my attention. Most people using a CB are truckers. We always know where we are. Hell, even four-wheelers don't usually get on the radio unless they're in some kind of trouble. "Are you broke down?" I asked. "What mile marker are you near static?" Then her voice, again quieter. This time, "I don't know. It's dark. I don't see any signs." Something wasn't right. Even if she was lost, she should have had some idea where she was. I checked my mirrors, but the highway was empty. Just me out there. "Are you in a car or a truck?" I asked. Silence. Then, barely above a whisper, "I think someone's following me." That sent a chill straight down my spine. "Where are you?" I asked more urgently now. "I'll call for help." A burst of static drowned out whatever she was about to say. And when it cleared, the radio was silent. I waited, listening. Nothing. I kept rolling eyes scanning the highway ahead for hazards, wrecked cars, stranded motorists, anything. But the road was empty. After a couple of minutes, I tried again. "Driver, you still there?" Silence. I was starting to think maybe it was some kind of prank, kids messing around on an open channel. But something about her voice stuck with me. A few miles later, I spotted lights up ahead. Hazard blinkers, flashing. A car pulled over on the right shoulder. As I got closer, I saw it was an older sedan. Late 90s model, maybe. The driver's side door was wide open. No one inside. I slowed down, debating whether or not to stop. Everything in me told me not to. I tapped my brakes just enough to roll past, slow craning my neck to get a better look. The car was running. That's when I saw it, about 20 feet from the road, just barely visible in my headlights. A pair of legs sticking out from behind a cluster of desert brush. I hit the brakes hard. My rig shuddered to a full stop. My heartbeat was in my throat. The way the legs were positioned, they weren't standing. They weren't moving. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed down from the cab, staying close to the truck as I edged toward the car. The hairs on my arms stood straight up. The night was silent except for the idling engine and the distant hum of wind through the desert. I angled my light toward the brush. A woman, face down in the dirt, arms stretched out in front of her like she'd been crawling. I felt ice in my chest. I called out. No response. I took a step closer, scanning the area. Nothing but dark desert in every direction. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach twist. Drag marks. In the dirt, leading from the road to where she lay. I backed up fast, nearly tripping over my own feet as I ran to my cab. I grabbed the radio and called 911, barely getting the words out right. The dispatcher told me to stay put and keep my lights on. They'd send a unit immediately. I locked my doors, hands shaking as I waited. 10 minutes later, I saw headlights in my mirror. A sheriff's deputy pulling up behind my truck. Another set of lights followed soon after. 2 officers got out. I climbed down to meet them and pointed toward the brush. They went over, checked her pulse. One of them radioed for EMS. "She's breathing," one of the deputies said. "Barely." They turned her over, and that's when I saw the state she was in, blood on her face. Her hoodie torn, dirt smeared all over like she'd been dragged through the desert. One shoe missing. The paramedics arrived a few minutes later and loaded her onto a stretcher. She was unconscious, but alive. The deputies took my statement, asked if I'd seen anyone else. I told them no, just her. One of them walked over to the car and checked inside. When he came back, his expression was grim. "There's no keys, no purse, no phone. Looks like she left in a hurry." I asked if they thought she'd been running from someone. He didn't answer right away. Then he nodded, almost to himself. "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, I think she was. They never told me what happened to her. I checked the news for days afterward, but there was nothing. No reports. No missing persons matching her description. Nothing about a woman found near mile marker 270. I still wonder about it. Who she was. What she was running from. If I'd gotten on the CB a few minutes earlier, would I have heard more? I don't know. And honestly, I don't think I want to. I've been driving trucks for over a decade now, and out on the road, you see all kinds of things. Some are just weird. Others are funny. But every now and then, you get something that makes you question everything, makes you think about quitting. This was one of those nights. It was just past midnight, and I was hauling a load through a stretch of road in Nebraska. the kind where gas stations are 20, sometimes 30 miles apart. Nothing but blackness swallowing the land on either side of you. The kind of road where you don't see another soul for miles. The kind where, if something happened to you, no one would know for hours. I had a stop scheduled at a small warehouse just outside of some town that barely had a name. One of those places you don't see on a regular map. A place only truckers and locals know about. The pickup was a last-minute request, which isn't too unusual. But the way my dispatcher sounded on the phone made me uneasy. He just said, "They need this picked up tonight. No delays, no questions." When I pulled up to the warehouse, I noticed how run down it looked. Not abandoned, but not exactly thriving either. A single light buzzed near the loading dock, barely illuminating the area. No signs, no company name, just a faded sticker on the door that said, "Authorized personnel only." I killed the engine and waited. But no one came out. Normally, someone's always there, ready to load, or at least check the paperwork. I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again harder this time. Finally, I heard footsteps. The door cracked open, just enough for a man to look out. He was old, maybe in his 50s, wore a dirty flannel shirt and jeans. Looked like he hadn't slept in days. "You here for the pickup?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, handing him the paperwork. He barely glanced at it before nodding. Back up to Dock 2. There was something off about him. He kept looking around, like he expected someone to be watching. But I was tired. All I wanted was to get this done and get back on the road. I backed into the dock and waited. Normally, the guys loading the truck take their time, but within minutes, I felt the trailer shake. They were working fast. That was another red flag. No one in this industry moves that fast, unless they've got a reason. I checked my side mirror and saw 2 other men, just shadows in the dim light, moving pallets into the trailer, like their lives depended on it. After maybe 5 minutes, the guy from before came up to my door. "You're good to go," he said, handing me back my paperwork. That was another thing that didn't sit right. No checks, no signatures, just a quick, "Get out of here." I was about to ask what I was hauling, but something in his face told me I didn't want to know. I pulled out, feeling more awake than I had all night. Something was wrong with this whole thing. A few miles down the road, I stopped at a truck stop to grab some coffee. I decided to check the paperwork, see what I was actually carrying. That's when I noticed something strange. No details, just a single line. Fragile. Handle with care. That's not how freight paperwork is done. There should be item descriptions, weights, sender, and receiver information. But this was blank. That's when I heard a sound. A thud. From inside the trailer. I froze. I know the sounds cargo makes when it shifts. This wasn't that. It was deliberate. Like something or someone was inside. I stared at the closed trailer doors, debating what to do. My gut told me not to open them. I've learned over the years that sometimes it's best to leave things alone. But this wasn't normal, and I couldn't just ignore it. I pulled out my phone and called my dispatcher. It rang twice before he picked up. "You picked up the load?" he asked immediately. "Yeah," I said, "but there's something weird about it. The paperwork's all wrong." And I just heard something in the trailer. Silence. Then, in the calmest voice I've ever heard, he said, "Keep driving." What I asked. Keep driving. Don't stop. Don't open the trailer. Get to the drop-off. Do not ask questions. The way he said it sent a chill down my spine. I'd worked with this guy for years, and he'd never spoken like that before. I gripped the wheel, debating my next move. Then I heard it again. A scraping noise. My mind raced. I wasn't about to be the guy who transported something illegal. Or worse, someone. I made my decision. I pulled the truck onto a deserted side road and jumped out. My hands were shaking as I unlatched the trailer. The moment I pulled the door open, I felt my stomach drop. Inside, huddled against the wall, were 3 people. 2 men and a woman. All dirty, thin, terrified. Their hands were tied in front of them, their eyes wide with fear. The woman shook her head violently, like she was trying to tell me something. Then, I heard tires on gravel. A black SUV pulled up behind my truck. Headlights off. The doors opened. 2 men stepped out. One of them was the guy from the warehouse. My body went cold. I didn't wait to see what they were going to do. I slammed the trailer door shut, jumped into my cab, and floored it. My tires kicked up dirt as I sped back onto the highway, my heart hammering in my chest. My phone rang. It was my dispatcher. I ignored it. I drove straight to the nearest police station and told them everything. Within an hour, officers were at the warehouse, but by then, it was empty. Cleaned out, like nothing had ever been there. The police took my statement, but I never heard much after that. No arrests, no follow-ups, just a vague, "We'll look into it." A week later, I got a new dispatcher. I never found out who those people were, or what would have happened if I hadn't stopped. I don't usually tell this story, mostly because people either don't believe me or they ask why I was dumb enough to stop in the first place. But when you've been driving trucks as long as I have, you know that sometimes you just have to go with your gut. And that night, my gut nearly got me killed. It was about 2 years ago, somewhere in West Texas. I was on my usual long-haul route. It had been raining non-stop since sunset, the kind of heavy downpour that makes your wipers useless, turns the road into one long, dark smear. I wasn't too worried about it. Just another night on the job. But around Ojwenhuoyem, I saw something up ahead, on the shoulder, a figure barely visible through the rain, standing just past the mile marker. As I got closer, my headlights caught him. A guy in his mid-20s, soaked to the bone, wearing a hoodie and jeans. His hood was pulled up head down, but he was facing the road, arm raised, in that classic hitchhiker's pose. I don't usually pick up people, but something about this was different. Middle of nowhere. No gas station for miles. No car in sight. Either he was abandoned or running from something. And if he was running, I wasn't sure I wanted to know from what. I slowed down, debating. The guy looked miserable, and the rain was relentless. I figured I'd at least ask where he was headed. Worst case, I'd call someone for him. I pulled onto the shoulder, kept the engine running, and rolled down the passenger window, just a few inches. "Where you headed?" I called out. He stepped closer, but he didn't answer right away. His hood cast a shadow over his face, and with the rain hitting the pavement, I could barely hear him. When he finally spoke, he said, "Anywhere but here." That's what did it. Something about the way he said it. Not a joke, not a desperate plea, just flat, empty. My gut told me to leave. I put the truck back in gear, ready to pull off. But before I could, he moved. Fast. Too fast. He grabbed the door handle and yanked. I had locked it, thank God. But the sound of him trying to open it, it sent my heart racing. His other hand slapped against the window. "Hey, man, come on. Just let me in." His voice wasn't panicked. It was forceful, demanding. I shook my head. "Can't help you." That's when I noticed something. His sleeve had pulled back when he smacked the window. And his wrist. His wrist had zip tie marks. Tight ones. The skin was raw. Deep indentations, like he'd been bound for hours. That was enough for me. I hit the gas. He slammed his fist against the side mirror hard enough to knock it sideways, but I didn't stop. I merged back onto the highway, heart pounding. In my side mirror, I saw him just standing there, Not chasing, not waving, just standing in the rain like he expected me to change my mind. I didn't. I drove for another 40 miles before I stopped at a truck stop to check my mirror and catch my breath. I sat in the cab, rain still pounding on the roof, trying to shake the feeling that I had just dodged something bad. Then, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have let me in. My stomach dropped. I hadn't given anyone my number. My company doesn't even print it on the side of my rig. I stared at the screen, feeling the cold sweat on my back. I never responded.